A very good morning to you all.
Good morning, sir.
So, who will tell me today what did we discuss in the last session? Anybody? Speak something. Take initiative. Anybody can tell. Jayant, Yogesh. Okay. Is the PPT visible?
Yes, sir.
So, in the last session, we discussed about Porter's 5 model, Porter's 5 force model. In that, we saw that this model he has proposed for analyzing the industry competition, and there are 5 different forces, that is the threat of new entrant, threat from competition, threat of substitutes, and 2 vertical forces, that is customer bargaining power and suppliers bargaining power, that we were discussing in the last session. I think 2 of the forces we have discussed in detail, that is threat of new entrant. What is that threat of new entrant, and how that threat of new entrant can be reduced by having different ways, like having some entry barriers or retaliation by available companies, that we have discussed. Also, we discussed the bargaining power of supplier. What is that bargaining power of supplier? When that supplier is um, uh, at an end where he has some power, bargaining power, that we have discussed. Few examples we took, as well as uh, we discussed the bargaining power of buyers also with few examples. Also, we discussed when that bargaining power is more. Today we'll be discussing about the threat of substitute products. So first of all, we'll have to understand what is a substitute product. So substitutes, as we have discussed in the earlier session also, that these are some products which can be substituted with each other. These are similar products. So if the particular product is not available, customer can have choice of the another product which is similar to that product. So substitute are those products which can be substituted with each other. When the product has large number of substitutes, the price of the product doesn't move high. So when there are many such types of similar products in the market, the price will be reduced. So everybody will have similar price. Nobody can increase the price above that particular average price, because if they increase the price they will not be able to sell, because customer has many alternatives. If he doesn't get that particular product, if that particular product is priced high, he may go to purchase another product. Therefore price will cannot be increased. Availability of those substitute products will have negative competitive impact on the companies. In an industry where close substitutes are not available, the company sells their products at higher prices. Wherein there is no competition or very less competition, the companies can enjoy high profit margin. They can sell the products at very high price. So when that threat is high, the when the switching cost is low, when the switching cost from one product to another product is less, then the threat of substitution product is very high. We'll see such examples in next slide. Prices of substitute products are lower. If the substitute products has less price, then customers can easily purchase that product which is priced low. Then quality and performance of substitute products are either equal or little or greater than major industry products. If the similar products having equal type of quality or performance, then customers can switch from one brand to another brand easily. In such cases, companies can offset the effect of substitute product by differentiation over competitors. So if there is a threat of substitution, that your product can be substituted by another similar product, prices are same, quality performance is same, then customers can easily switch over from one brand to another brand. Therefore, to make the customers not to switch from our brand to another brand, there are different methods of differentiating of our product than competitors product. We will have to differentiate our product than competitors product. We have to establish that our product is little bit different than other products. That differentiation can be created by different ways. One of the ways can be higher quality at lower price. So we can provide and we can assure good quality product at lower price than competitors. We can assure for better after sale services. So that can be differentiation. So we can differentiate our product or service by claiming that we provide better after sale service, or we can provide location advantage. We can provide a location advantage to the customers, being easily available or being accessible, easily accessible to the customers. That advantage can be created so that we can differentiate our product or service or whatever offering is there different than other competitors. Only then, if we can differentiate our product than competitors, then only we can charge high prices and can attract customers towards our product. So going little bit ahead in this threat of substitute products, full substitute products are products from different manufacturers that fulfill the exact same purpose. So there may be fully substituted products, exactly same products, which can give the same type of result or same type of output or same type of benefit to the customers. Therefore, this can be called as fully substituted products, which are exactly same with each other. So whatever brand customer takes, that will not be customers can enjoy the same type of quality or same type of product whatever brand he purchases. You take the example of Kellogg's Cornflakes, and any other brand of local type of generic brand of cornflakes. It, if it is same, then customer purchase any of the brand among all those brands, and he can take the same benefit out of those products. There can be partial substitution also can be there, which can provide the same, not exactly the same type of benefit, however it can partially satisfy the purpose, therefore they can be called as partial substitutes. These are the products that only partially substitute each other, so they can fulfill only partial need of the customer, or they can be partially substituted, even not given the exactly same benefit, however it at least it can satisfy the customer to some extent. So for example, a holiday in Phuket is not exactly the same as holiday in Bangkok, even though they are both cities. Even if these both are cities, they will not give you the same type of experience, not exactly the same type of uh, experience. However, if one is not available, another can be taken if the customer desires to visit or to enjoy his vacation. So if one booking at any particular city from this is not available, he can substitute for other, because it will serve at least some purpose. It will make him enjoy his holidays, not exactly the same as that particular city gives. However, to some extent, he can at least take the benefit. That is a partial substitution. Can you quote any other similar examples of the products which can be uh, exact substitute of each other, and some products which can partially be substituted? Any examples from your side? Harish, are you getting what we are discussing? Is it understood? Sagar, Priti, Amol, Nikita, Yogesh, Suraj, Jayant, Monica. Are you unable to listen? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you tell me yes or no. If you have understood, it is fine. We will go ahead. Otherwise, if you have not understood, then we will discuss. Are you getting this concept? Tejas, Shubham, Harish, Yogesh, Parinita, Vinod, clear? So going ahead, how do we protect our company's products from substitution? What are the different ways? First of all, distributors may try to protect themselves against substitution with exclusive distribution agreements. So they can make an agreement with the company for having exclusive agency of particular product or particular company for its distribution. So the substitution cannot be done. Customer can take the product from that particular dealer or distributor. Secondly, producers may try to protect their products with strong branding, trademark, patent, and other psychological and legal barriers against substitutes. So these legal barriers of substitution can be made use of, like there can be patenting, copyright or trademarks, then strong branding. So that cannot be copied by the competitors, and that can help to establish the brand in the market, which cannot be substituted by other similar products. Then another is another way to protect from substitution is to make the products compatible with competitive competing products. So from substitution, if you can, if you want to protect your products, so you can have such a product which can be compatible, which can be made use of with other products. You can take an example of the different lens systems for SLR cameras. Those can be used for various cameras easily. Those are compatible with other cameras, and therefore substitution can be reduced by having strong branding or customers um, or taking the customers attention towards the product. Then these products can be protected from substitution. Examples of substitution, you can take few examples, like washing powder is there, wherein the threat of substitution is very high because most of those brands are very similar in nature. There is not much difference. Therefore, you will see there are dozen of brands sitting on the shelves and waiting for customers to pick up. Consumer will often pick up the one that is one on the shopping day, on special one that is on special on shopping day. So there, wherever there is a special display of particular product or maybe discounts on that particular product or strong branding is there, so customers will be able to pick up that particular brand. So that is one example. Another is example of oil. Although alternative forms of energy are being studied and introduced, most of the engines today run on gasoline. Gasoline cannot be replaced that quickly at large scale. So the gasoline is one of the form which can be made use of. So gasoline cannot be replaced quickly. Therefore, the threat of substitution can be reduced. Pharmaceutical companies, if you observe in the short term, because they are protected by patents, the pharmaceutical companies, they usually take the benefit of this type of patent legal ways of uh, protection from substitution is by getting protected with the help of patent. In long term, generic can dent their market share and profits. So once the duration of that patent gets over, most of the companies, they will come with similar kind of product, and that market share will be reduced. However, for a short term, for the till the validity of patent is there, the companies can enjoy protection from substitution. Is it clear till now? Any query? Any query so far?
No, sir. No, sir.
Fine. So the next force, which is described by the Porter's 5 model, is intensity of rivalry among the competitors. So what is the intensity between the competitors? That also gets the company will get affected by this kind of force in an industry, which can determine the attractiveness of the company. So the intensity of rivalry among the competitors, if it is high, then it is difficult for a new entrant to enter into the industry, and the industry becomes unattractive for the entry. Therefore, this intensity of rivalry among the competitors is very important. In every industry, you will see a good number of companies are present who competes with each other for creating a competitive position in the industry. There are, in any of the industry, if you see, there are many similar companies who are trying to target the similar customers and trying to get or try struggling for the same competitive market share. So depending upon the nature of industry and stage of the industry, number of competitors in the industry and intensity of the competition is dependent. So this intensity of the competition is dependent on the nature of the industry, what type of industry that is, and what type stage of life cycle that industry has reached. So that intensity is dependent on these two factors. So the dimensions of rivalry among the competitors we have to understand. There may be different dimensions like competitive structure, demand conditions, and exit barriers. So what are these dimensions? We'll have to discuss in detail. So the competitive structure, what it means is the number of competitors. We'll have to say the first dimension, that is the competitive structure. What type of competition is there? What is the structure of that particular competition? That can be measured or that can be understood by measuring or by going through all these factors or all these parameters, like number of competitors, how many competitors are there in that particular industry, what are the sizes of all those competitors and diversities of the companies. Then different types of competitive structures have different implications for existing firms and new entrants. So whatever competitive structures are there, every competitive structure will have different implications to the existing firms as well as new entrants also. The structures of the industry vary from consolidated to fragmented industry. So these structures of the industry will be will vary from consolidated industry, wherein some industries those are consolidated, and some industries these are fragmented. Those are they are working in isolation. So these structures may be different from industry to industry. Some structures will be consolidated, where the companies are in a condensed form, wherein the each company is dependent on each other. The type of consolidated type of industry when these companies come together and form some type of association or consolidation. Or there may be fragmented industry wherein each company works in isolation, no company is dependent on each other. That type of fragmented industry also may be there. So that is about competitive structure. Then another dimension of this rivalry among competitors may be related to the demand conditions. What type of demand prevails in that particular industry for their products? That demand condition is also important. So this demand condition will be related to the nature of the companies, what type of companies are there in that industry, the demand of existing customers in the industry. So demand of the consumers in that particular industry for that particular kind of products which that particular industry is um, producing that type of products. A high demand, increasing demand tends to moderate competition, as each company can earn respective market share depending upon their competency levels. So if there is a industry where is there is a very high demand, then each company will strive to uh, get that particular market share, and there will be moderate competition. If there is any industry where there is a stagnant demand, if the demand is not increasing, there is a less demand or stagnant demand which is not growing or degrowing market, if the demand is declining, That leads to intensity of competition so as to take over as much possible market share from the competitors. So in that case also you will see the intensity of competition will tend to increase in the sense that it will try to take over the possible market share from the competitors. Each company will try to get the market share which the already existing companies were enjoying. Then another uh, thing which we have to discuss is about the exit barriers. How do we have to reduce or to uh, remain or to protect ourselves from this intensity of rivalry because of competition? There can be exit barriers which can be there, which can make companies too difficult to leave the particular industry. So exit barriers, what it means is there will be difficulties in getting exit from that particular industry, or closing the business will become difficult. So these two dimensions we were discussing about. First we discussed about competitive structure and demand conditions. Second is about exit barriers that we are going to discuss right now. So these exit barriers that will refer to some situation in an industry that prevents the companies from leaving the industry even though the profitability or return of investment is less or negative in that industry. So this exit barrier, that means the leaving that particular industry or closing the business becomes difficult. So exit barriers, what type of exit barriers can be there in a particular industry, that we will have to understand. There can be different exit barriers. One of the exit barrier may be economic exit barriers. So it becomes very difficult for a company to leave the particular industry because of economic reasons. We'll see some examples in next slide so that you will understand it better. There may be emotional exit barriers wherein the emotions are attached to particular brand or company, and because of that the exit becomes difficult. There may be strategic factors also which prevent the companies to exit from the industry. There can be another strategic factors that can also prevent the companies to exit from a particular industry. So these exit barriers to exit are obstacles to market players. So these are such type of obstacles that we have discussed to market players who realize that they will not turn a profit and would like to quit the market. The difficulties of exiting a market can force a player to keep competing as the least bad alternative. The increased competition affects negatively the other incumbents. Incumbents means new entrants. So the exit barriers are such that the existing companies also find it difficult to leave the industry, and new entrants also will have to think over whether to enter that industry or not, because exiting that industry becomes difficult. Once entered, leaving that industry becomes difficult. So there can be few examples, as I told you. We will have to discuss like industries with high barriers to exit. So once established, it becomes very difficult to leave the industry. Such examples can be wireless telecom is there. The production of an additional minute of wireless call cost virtually nothing. most cost being up front investment in expensive equipment deployment. This production of wireless telecom, you will see the wireless call costs virtually nothing. Most cost being upfront investment in the expensive equipment deployment. So each call, whatever we are making, that is not costing nothing to the company. However, the cost is because of the equipment deployments. Those equipments or those machineries or the mechanisms which are been set for giving that service, that is costing so much that it becomes difficult for a company to leave the industry. Another is air travel. Example of air travels. Then adding a passenger to a scheduled airplane costs just a little bit of fuel as opposed to the huge cost of idle airplanes. So a single passenger, if it is added to airplane, then it will not cost much to a company. However, if the airplane remains idle or if it is not being used, that costs huge to the company. That cost is very high that has to bear with the company. So these are few examples wherein the exit barriers are there. It becomes difficult for companies to leave the industry because of huge investments in the industry, and therefore a thought to be given to exit from the industry, or the new incumbents or the new companies which are planning to enter that particular industry, they will have to give a thought whether to enter that industry or not, because the thought has to be given, because the investment is very high. It is very difficult to withdraw that investment. There can be few other examples of industry wherein there are very low exit barriers. So getting exit from the industry or leaving the industry is very easy, which does not cost much. That industries can be one of the industries retail. So in a retail industry wherein some people who are engaged in retail business, so disinvestment from that particular industry uh, can be very easy. That inventory whatever is being purchased by the retailer can be easily moved to more profitable markets or liquidated. That can be moved from that particular owner to another businessman, and then that retailer can close his business. So exit barrier is very less in a retail industry. You can even take the example of personal care services. Whatever personal care services are there, labor is most important price factor for these industries. So for particular these services, whatever personal care services you may take, maybe a salon or hotel industry or any industry wherein the labor is important factor, that industry is also very easy to exit. So these are few examples wherein there is a very less barrier for exit. So with this, your unit number one gets over. However, before we close, there is some time, so we can have a recap of whatever we have discussed in this unit. Even if you have any queries related to any topic, whatever we have discussed in this unit, you can freely ask me without any hesitation. Is it okay, Harish, Pallavi, Priti, Vinod? Amol, are you all there? Yogesh?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yes.
So this unit is over, and what we'll have is a quick recap of what all we have discussed in this unit, and then I will give you one assignment on this unit. Then in the next session, we'll start with the unit number 2. So in unit number 1, what we discussed is, in the beginning we discussed about what is a planning, what is strategy. We tried to understand basic terms like vision, strategy, planning, tactics. The examples also we have discussed. Also, why the strategy is required, that we discussed. Two definitions we discussed about strategy, like strategy is a unifying theme. So unifying means one. It is a unifying theme that gives coherence, reason, and direction to the decisions of the organization. So it is a common thread which runs throughout the organization, giving a purpose. And strategic management is another term we discussed, that is consisting of the analysis, decisions, and actions of an organization in order to create and sustain the competitive advantage. Then Henry Mintzberg's model of strategy we discussed, wherein we saw that there are three different terms he has used, and with that he proposed this model, wherein he wants to say about the strategy development, how the strategy is being developed, the three different uh, assumptions or whatever terms he has described, like there is intended strategy, emergent strategy, or realized strategy, that he explained through this model. What he says is that this there is maybe intended strategy, which if it is implemented as it is, we can call it as a deliberate strategy. However, it rarely happens. Few strategies have to be dropped in between, which are called as unrealized strategy. There may be few strategies which may come in between during the implementation of the strategy, which may be called as emergent strategy. And finally, the realized strategy, that means the actual implemented strategy, may be the result of all the strategies and different factors which come in between and affect the strategy implementation that we discussed. Also, we discussed that while formulating any strategy, we'll have to answer these three important questions, that first of all, where are we now, what is our situation, where we want to go, and then how we will get there. So these are the three important questions we'll have to answer, and then the formulation of strategy will become easy. We also saw the definition of the one of the term, that is SBU, strategic business unit. So this strategic business unit, we saw that it is a fully functional unit of a business that has its own vision and direction. A strategic business unit operates as a separate unit. However, it is under the umbrella of the main company, or it refers to the headquarters about its operational status. So it is not detached. Even if it is working in isolation, it is attached. It is the part of the main company. So there are different four levels of strategy that also we have seen. That is the corporate level strategy, then business level strategy, functional level strategy, operational level strategy. All those forms of strategy, that four levels we have discussed in detail. Then we saw different features of strategic management and different characteristic at different levels of strategy that we discussed. Then the process of strategic management. What is that strategic management process? And into that various basic concepts like vision, mission, goals, objectives that we discussed. And in that, the process starts with strategic intent. There are different stages of this strategic management, and these stages may be strategic intent, environmental analysis and strategy formulation, strategy implementation, strategy evaluation and control. At the same time, we discussed that this is a continuous process of uh, adapting to the changes in the environment, and therefore continuously appraising the environment and then making the changes in all its facets of the strategic management that we discussed. Different six sub processes of the strategic implementation process that also we have seen. In strategic evaluation, we saw that in strategic evaluation there can be three parameters which are important, and this model given by Johnson, Schools and Whittington, they have given this model to evaluate the strategy. That model suggests three important parameters, that is suitability, feasibility, acceptability. That also we have discussed in detail. Then we saw the importance of strategic management, how the strategic management is important for an organization, that we discussed. Then we saw that different stakeholders in business. Who are the stakeholders of a business? There are four different stakeholders, that is capital market share stakeholders, product market share stakeholders, organizational stakeholders, secondary stock stakeholders. All these stakeholders are there, and what are their expectations from an organization, that also we have seen. We saw this strategic intent, what is called as strategic intent. So the strategic intent will include the vision, mission and goals, that we call it as a hierarchy of strategic intent that we have discussed. And we also uh, have discussed in detail what is mission. We took some examples of vision. So vision, we saw that it is a clearly articulated strategic vision that communicates management's aspirations to stakeholders and helps steer the energies of company personnel in common direction. So it is a statement, clearly articulated statement containing the strategic vision of the company that communicates to every employee or the stakeholders of the company about the aspirations of the company, and will give a common direction to all the energies of the company people. So we also saw a few examples of vision, and then we discussed about mission. What is a mission? A mission is a statement which is typically focused on present business scope, what we are, what we do. So basically, it will uh, communicate the purpose or the reason behind existing of a particular business. So we also have seen some examples of mission, also the component of mission. Then we discussed about objectives and goals. What are objectives and goals? So we discussed that these organizations will have to translate the vision and mission into the objectives. They have to be specific, and they need to be precise. So they will define the strategies and implementation steps so as to achieve the identified goals. That all this we discussed through an example of agricultural company, agricultural business development company. We discussed what is VMOSA, that is the vision, mission, goals, objectives, and action plan, how it is being developed. Then we discussed about the business definition. So, what is a business definition? It is the clear statement of business, what the firm is engaged or plan to enter. Few examples we discussed about business definition. Also, we discussed about the DF Abel's business along three dimensions. So, this business definition, what are all these three dimensions of business definition that are discussed or suggested by DF Abel? Three dimensions he suggested, like customer groups, who are the customers, what are the customer needs, and then what are the different technologies with which we can satisfy those needs that we discussed. Different orientations of business definition on the basis of product definition and market definition also we have discussed. Then Peter Drucker's view also we discussed. Then the different important concept like critical success factor. We saw what is critical success factor. So critical success factor, we can say that it is a quality improvement tool that many organizations use. So these are some indicators. These critical success factors are indicators that measures how well an organization is accomplishing its strategic plan and objectives, that is objectives versus strategic plans, that we discussed in critical success factor. We also saw some examples of critical success factors for shoes manufacturer, as well as few examples of critical success factors for a courier service company. Then also we saw how it is linked, the mission, critical success factors and goals, how they are interlinked with each other, that we discussed. How do we determine this critical success factor, that also we have discussed. Then how these KPIs are important, key performance indicators, what are these indicators and how it is important, that we saw. These key factors, key performance indicators are the measures that can evaluate CSF, that is critical success factor, to measure the performance of organization. There may be different key performance indicators like tax, pre-tax profits or shareholders equity. Then we discussed about the key result areas, KRAs. These KRAs are those functions or functional divisions or areas of performance in which organization must continually improve to be successful. To become successful, what areas are important? Those key result areas we discussed. Then we took the another topic for discussion, that is external environmental analysis. This external environmental analysis can be of two types, that is macro environmental analysis having a larger impact and the micro environmental analysis which is having a lesser impact, that we discussed. Why it is needed, that we had a discussion on. Then what are opportunities and threats, that we discussed. What can be called as an opportunity and what are the different threats. Then how this environmental analysis can be performed by using a pest analysis, that we saw, PEST, that means political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, that all we discussed. Then another model of measuring the environmental impact, that is pestle analysis, also we discussed. Then ETOP, environmental threat and opportunity profile, we have discussed. So this ETOP model, that is environmental threat and opportunity profile, we discussed how to prepare this ETOP, what are the different calculations involved in preparing this ETOP, that we discussed how it is important to identify these opportunities and threats that we have discussed. Then industry environmental analysis. How do we analyze the industry environment and how it is important to identify whether the particular industry is attractive or unattractive for doing the business in that industry, that we have discussed. And for this industry environmental analysis, we saw that there is a one of the important model which is called as Porter's five force model, that we discussed in detail. These five forces which he has described, which are called as Porter's five forces, that three forces are of a horizontal competition and two forces are from vertical competition. That is, three forces may be the threat for new entrants, threat from competition, then threat of substitutes. All these are three horizontal competition and two are vertical competition, that is customers bargaining power and suppliers bargaining power. All these forces we discussed in detail. So that is how this unit number one, that is the introduction to strategic management, uh, gets over. And with this, for self study or some revision at your end, I am giving you one assignment to you. This assignment you will have to write, uh, that should be handwritten, and you will have to scan and submit on a link which will be provided on your WhatsApp group. There will be 4 questions in this assignment. First question is explain the terms. So basic terms you will have to describe, like vision, mission, objective, strategy, action plan. Second question is discuss the role of various stakeholders in strategic management. Then third question, what is critical success factor, key result areas and key performance indicators? Give few examples. And fourth is select a company of your choice. You can select any company which you are aware of and then prepare an ETOP in the context of that particular company. Also discuss the 5 force model in the context of the particular industry to which whatever company you have selected that belongs. So all these questions, these 4 questions I have given for your exercise. Do you have any query in these questions which are given for assignment?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So before we close, do you have any query, whatever you would like to discuss, or shall we stop here?
Yes, sir.
Send this PPT on the group, sir.
Okay, sure. I will send the PPT as well as these questions will also be sent on your group. Also, I will provide you one link wherein you can upload